Hello, everybody. Welcome to Home Movies. We are at a supermarket. I'm out of context. I don't know how to do this not in a kitchen, actually. So I'm going to show you inside how to grocery shop. What a blast. So we're at Food Bazaar in Redhook, which is one of my favorite large grocery stores in Brooklyn. And I like it because they have pretty much every single thing that you could ever imagine buying at a grocery store. In order to best organize yourself when grocery shopping, I've organized your shopping list the way that I shop for cookbook shoots or my personal life or these home movie shoots, which is broken down by sort of departments. So there's produce, there's dairy, there's pantry, and then there's sort of specialty, meaning things that you might need to go to another grocery store for, or it's like the butcher counter or bread or things like that. Okay. Lemons are the type of thing that I will always buy more of because I will always use them. We don't have to do this with every ingredient. This would take for a fucking hour. I try to avoid using plastic bags if I can. If things are large enough and I know I'm gonna wash them anyway, I'll kind of avoid it, but I'm just gonna stick these directly into the cart. And if you are gonna use plastic bags, you have to reuse them for something. You must, that'll make the rules. I'm gonna get a fresh bay leaf because I don't see this often and I love fresh bay leaf. I need 2 bunches of Lacinato kale. Lacinato? Why don't I know that word? Onions are another thing I'll always grab like more of because I'm always gonna use onions. If you have extra, you can always just keep them on your counter. They'll last for months. I did strike out on the kale that I wanted, which is fine. Like, you know, we're doing the best we can. We can get out of this produce section now. I am standing next to a section called nuts with a Z, and I know that I need walnuts, so I'm gonna see if they have those and I'm gonna grab a box. Walnuts. Another thing on our list is bread. Bread I put into specialty section, which means you might not be able to find it at a grocery store. In fact, I would implore you to get your bread at a bakery. No. I wouldn't. Okay, we're gonna go back that way because spices are there. All right, we got Diamond Crystal. This to me is the best salt that you can buy. That's it. Nothing more to say. The other seasonings you'll need, fennel seed. Another thing that I use a ton of in my cooking. I just love the flavor of it. It's really versatile. You could use it in soups and stews and braises and salads and like kind of anywhere. Nothing worse than running out of peppercorns in your pepper mill, which happens to me more often than it should. Where like that's just something I take for granted as like always having. So if you think of it, if you're like, you know what, I don't know how full my pepper mill is, get some peppercorns. These are things that people will always say, like if you've had spices in your pantry for more than 6 months, you should throw them away. I'd say like a year is probably fine for most things. Normally like McCormick or something will sell like tiny little things of spices, which I actually think are really nice. Just buy a tiny little jar of it. Otherwise you're committing, God, it smells good. I'm starving. I'm also gonna get a honey. When you're looking at the wide array of honey and you're like, well, what kind do I buy? I like to think of it in terms of like, how am I using it? Am I using a lot or a little? Is this like a drizzle situation? Is this a pour situation? So I'll get a jar with a wide mouth as opposed to a squeeze bear. Raw and unfiltered might be a nice choice if you're a real honey connoisseur. If you see this sort of like crystallization on some of these honeys, that's totally natural. I do tend to find that there is a direct correlation between price and quality with honey. I think like honey is a pretty laborious and intensive process to harvest and to like do in a good way for both the bees and the environment, and oftentimes that means it's more expensive. So I always buy a more expensive honey. Honey's also a really great thing to buy at a farmer's market or like a local craft fair or something like that. That said, you can also buy cheap ass honey. I don't know. Just going through, I forgot what we needed. Hustle bustle over here. There's a lot of soy sauces you could buy. I always go for the Sanjay. That's like the brand that if I'm at a grocery store and I see so many, I'll either get the tamari or the shoyu. show you it has gluten. Tamari does not have gluten. So more often than not, I will default to the tamari in my house because I have a lot of gluten-free friends. If you have gluten-free people in your life, it's just as easy to get the tamari than the soy sauce. If you don't already have fish sauce in your fridge, which if you've ever cooked with it, you probably do because a little bit goes a long way. This is a great brand. It's my preferred brand, Red Boat. I think it's super high quality. I love the way it tastes. I use it in so much. If this is your first time buying it, you will find a lot of ways to use it, I promise. I've never seen this before. I was just looking at it. It's cooking wine. It's wine with salt in it. That's cool. I'm not going to buy it because I probably won't ever use it, but I'm down for that. Mayo chup, why? Don't do that. Just mix it yourself. Don't do that. Apple cider vinegar. When it comes to apple cider vinegar, there's really only one. It's Bragg's. And I say Bragg's, it's really Bragg. There's no S, and I add it every time. If you asked me what this brand was, I'd say it's Bragg's, but it's not, it's Bragg. Anyway, I love it. It's perfect. I drink it. I cook with it. I am never without it. It's like, to me, as important in my pantry as salt and pepper and olive oil. Think of it as like a way to like acidulate and perk up something, but also like flavor it with something more than acidity. Like it does have like a bit of roundness, a bit of sweetness. And the mother refers to the organism that makes vinegar. So all vinegar is made with mother, and most vinegars have it removed, hence their clarity, right? So this is cloudy because it has the mother. Nothing is wrong with it. It's actually, it's great. I love it. But that is what makes it cloudy, and sort of like, that is what continues the fermentation. Oh, dairy, I found it. I'm a daisy girl myself. Whenever I'm shopping for butter, I never spring for like the highest caliber unless I know I'm just eating it like on a radish or on toast or whatever. But I also never go for like the lowest just because I feel like it doesn't have that much flavor, and at which point I may as well be using oil. So I do kind of go for something a little bit more middle of the road. I think Cabot, Organic Valley are sort of middle of the road. I would say Kerrygold and Kate's are on the higher end of the butter spectrum. Then anything else I would consider to be like, you know, lower quality, good for like workhorse, whatever, but like not gonna bring a ton to the table in terms of flavor or texture. Any of these, strong buy from me: Kate's, Kerrygold, Organic Valley, Cabot, Vermont. Organic dairy will always be more expensive than regular dairy. An organic onion might not be that much more expensive than a regular onion, but dairy, I feel, is more important to buy organic than other things. And there's just like so much work and effort that goes into things that involve animals and the caring of them and the manufacturing of the product, that like doing things that are organic are more expensive for the farmer, more expensive just generally for the practice, and so they're more expensive for the customer, and I accept that. I feel really passionately about buttermilk. Kate's of Maine, great brand, really made it out. Not everybody can. Buttermilk is, I love buttermilk. I feel like buttermilk is like, if you're making buttermilk, you're okay by me. Buttermilk is made from whole milk. By the time you turn it into buttermilk, a lot of that fat is separated from the buttermilk. It's what makes buttermilk buttermilk. Buttermilk was traditionally made from churning butter. So you take heavy cream, you churn the butter, and you get butter, and then you get buttermilk, meaning all the fat goes to the butter and everything else goes into the buttermilk, meaning it's inherently low fat because all the fat is with the butter. They're making butter and buttermilk. You take the cream from the cows and then you make butter and then you get buttermilk. So it makes sense that a company selling one would also sell the other. Olive oil is overwhelming when you are shopping for it. If you're like, how am I supposed to know what is the best thing to buy for the price? I am not a person who thinks that you should have a finishing olive oil and a cooking olive oil. I think that your cooking olive oil should be nice enough to finish with. And I think that your finishing olive oil shouldn't be so pricey that if you had to cook with it, you couldn't. So I typically go for like an all-in-one. God, these are really expensive. Sorry, I'm like kind of aghast. Did they get more expensive? I mean, I have some news for you. In addition to things like dairy and honey, olive oil is really expensive to make. They grow on trees, they grow in really arid climates. This last year has actually been a really bad year for olive oil production because of the fires and because of general drought. And as a result, prices have increased. I've noticed as like a person who owns a grocery store and also as a consumer. But that said, there is a direct correlation between the price of olive oil and the quality of it. I've always said that California Olive Ranch is a great brand. It's not the cheapest, but it's also not the most expensive. I put it on my salads. I cook with it. It's a really good, high quality olive oil for not that much money. Zoe is great. I love this brand. This is one that we carry at First Bloom. It's a really nice, high quality olive oil. We always use this in the restaurants that I cooked at. Also not the most expensive, also not the cheapest. Stay away from anything that says blended. Another thing that you should look for is a darker bottle, because olives are fruit, and fruit oxidizes when exposed to light and oxygen. So if you have a bottle of olive oil sitting on your counter in a clear bottle, which is fine for things like canola seed oils because they're not made from fruit, they will start to oxidize. They will start to turn. They will start to become rancid. Their shelf life decreases significantly. I also personally avoid any olive oil that comes in plastic. I don't care if it's BPA free. I cook with it so much, I ingest so much of it that I don't want my olive oil sitting in plastic. I just don't. So for my money, my value, my body, my choice, I'm going extra virgin, high quality, tin or glass bottle. Nothing too outrageously expensive. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say. Grocery shopping, my favorite activity of all time.